Big Short has just been nominated, or I guess a couple of weeks ago was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. It just won the BAFTA award. Which BAFTA did it win?
Best Special Effects and Stunts.
That's exactly what I was going to guess.
No, Best Adapted Screenplay.
Best Adapted Screenplay. For those of you who have seen the film, or those of you who haven't, it's a fantastic movie about the economic crisis of 2008 and helping folks understand exactly what happened. And so let me start just by asking a straightforward question. So I imagine you're sitting at home, you've lived through the economic crisis, you've just read a fantastic book explaining exactly what happened to our economy, and you thought to yourself, collateralized debt obligations, that just screams movie. Is that sort of what happened?
Well, I read the book, to give Mr. Lewis some credit. I picked it up one night and I could not put it down. So even though it was filled with all these esoteric products, he just had amazing characters at the center of the book that you really connected with. So it was this strange combination of like something we've all lived through, amazing characters, and tons of incredible information. So the next morning I told my wife, I just read one of the great books kind of our times. And she was like, go take the kids to school. I don't care. And but I figured I'm a comedy guy. This will never happen. So I kind of just let it go for a year or two. And then lo and behold, the project was open and I was excited about it.
And Michael, I heard that you were a little skeptical when this was first proposed that they would turn The Big Short, which is one of the more.
So who's they?
They is just we're the New York Times. They call us all the time.
When I wrote it, I wasn't thinking it was a movie. When I heard he was interested, I thought that's a movie. I thought there's a chance, and I tell you, and I thought that, but I mean, I knew his movies, not all of them, but I'd seen. I mean, Talladega Nights has this iconic status in our house. It's maybe the most watched movie after Shrek. Shrek, I think, has been watched more. And
does that trend towards the children or towards the adults?
Well, that's the compromise. Talladega Nights is one we'll all watch. But the problem with the story, it's a problem with Wall Street, is that it's boring. And it's boring on the screen, and it's static. It's people on telephone calls. It's screens, things moving on. I mean, so it's not inherently filmic. And when I'm writing a book about Wall Street, the problem I have is how do I make this interesting enough to me, or entertaining enough to deliver the information, the stuff I want to deliver to the audience, to the reader, in a way the reader will accept it. The literary challenge is so much less than the film challenge, because you're dealing with a mass audience. I mean, my audience, even if it's 1 million people, it's still people who are vaguely interested in the markets, kind of want to know what's going on Wall Street. His audience wants to be entertained, and I thought, he's got a gift for making people feel things in a dark room. That's maybe an odd way to put it. I know. It's true. Put him in a dark room, but I just figured he would find a way to deborify it.
So let me ask. One of the things that's interesting is, and you point this out in the introduction of the book, that your career, even before you became a journalist, sort of traces exactly this time that we've been living through, the invention of collateralized debt obligations, taking mortgages, making them into something that Main Street and Wall Street can sell and Main Street can buy. And let me ask, when you're thinking about what your goals are in writing the book and then making the movie, are they the same goals? Is there a difference there in what you're trying to get across?
I bet there's one thing that the two enterprises had in common, and it was a desire to make people understand what had happened, to open a window on an opaque world. Once I figured out what had happened, I thought people need to know. That people need to want to read about this, and it's so the impulse is to let people in, and that. I bet I've heard him talking about
that. That was the energy that I felt too when I read the book, was that Lewis had let me in. I'm a guy who's not trained in economics or finance at all. I was interested, And then very quickly after reading his book and some of the other research I did, I started thinking like, oh my God, this is like the language of power. This is what we're all missing in America while we're fighting over politics and culture. And the truth is, it's not boring at all. It's incredibly exciting when you get turned on to it. And that was the key, was that I was not bored. And by the end, I felt like I had been given a special gift. I always tell Lewis at one point, he had a footnote in the book where he said, if you've kept up with the book to this point, you deserve a gold star.
I had a theory underneath all this, which was that these people's personalities, who they were, mattered. That's why they were able to see what they were able to see. So you couldn't tell the story without getting this character across, because these personalities, these characters had been basically shut out of the process. They were the kind of people who wouldn't get jobs at big Wall Street banks. And there was something, their ability to see what other people missed was tied to who they were.
I really feel like the movie is about more than banking even. I think it's about kind of what Michael was saying. It's about our culture and who we value and who we look to as the authority, and what standards are we using that we look for. I mean, I remember hearing Paul Krugman described to someone that, like, why don't they listen to you in the White House when you go in there? You're clearly a smart guy. And he goes, well, here's what happens. I come in my Men's Warehouse suit, which costs $320. I'm with my schlubby friends. We tell the president what they should do, and then all of a sudden the guys from Goldman Sachs and B of A walk in, and they've all got $1,000 haircuts and $4,000 suits, and they take over the room. And they were all guys who were captain of the lacrosse team. They're charming, they're charismatic, and that's who you listen to. And I think ultimately that's really what the movie's about, is not just with banking, but with politics, with industry, with science. I mean, right now in our country, science is like under attack and is treated with this sort of, dubious, questionable attitude, which is insane if you really think about it. So the reason I was drawn to the story was more than the banking thing, which is really important, but just the question of how we value people.
But so let me push back a little bit on that, because
Sure.
I think that the underlying philosophy and values of capitalism is you want your smartest people to go where they're going to make the biggest return,
Sure,
right? That's much like the justice system says everyone deserves a prosecution and defense. We're not going to leave it up to the lawyers to decide who's innocent and guilty. That we want capitalism to take our best and our brightest and put them in the things that are going to make them rich.
Well,
So-
I mean, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but so how do you,
It doesn't really actually work very well, though.
Okay.
I mean, the people that, in fact, if you're going to take one lesson away from the financial crisis, it was that you could see that money could be made, huge sums of money could be made by somebody doing things that were horrible for everybody else, illegally. Perfectly legally. So once you know that, then the link that you want to make between like the amount of money you make and your contribution to the society is severed. People got rich doing horrible things, and people get rich.
Did they know that they were doing horrible things while they were doing them? Or did they believe that
some
they were
did.
doing
Some
what's
did.
right?
There's the line. What's the line in the movie? The line in the movie, you tell me the difference between stupidity and fraud, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested. Right? So this was in the middle of.
They blend together.
So he did. I really like the way he did this in the movie. That he left a bit to the viewer to decide, because I tried to do this in the book. It was you try to leave things, you leave holes for the audience to walk in and exercise some discretion over the story. And good stories all do that. They leave holes for the reader to walk into. And one of the holes I left was, is it stupidity or is it fraud? Because I would go back and forth.
It's really hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
I would even say this. You could even go a step further back and say, was it from the very beginning, was it ideology or was it always a scam? I mean, because I really think that like Greenspan, these guys really believed that they had solved the problem of debt, that the markets always work. And I really think did they? I don't know.
I think it's absolutely true. So I think it's absolutely true. I would rather argue the case that Greenspan failed to really regulate the banks properly because he assumed that they would basically regulate themselves.
No, though, man.
But I can understand you can make the argument the other way. I know what you're saying, but I think I'd rather argue the.
Well, here's the example I always give is the show, and it's a silly show, Survivor. The second season, there's a woman on the show who lies to everyone. And lies and cheats and lies and cheats. And then on the final episode, it comes down to two people and she's been voted out. and they have to get up and they have to give a speech. So she's just lost $1 million. And she goes on the most righteous, self-righteous tirade against this one guy saying, you lied to us. You betrayed us. And meanwhile, we've just seen this woman lie to everyone. And I really think she believed it. She lost $1 million. And I think that could do weird things to your head. So I don't know. I mean,
so let me ask on this, because what we're kind of talking about here is character, right? The character of the.
I didn't follow what he just said. I just want to, for the record, I want to say that I did not understand what he just said.
I
think
totally
we're all
voted.
a little stupider for having listened to that.
oh, money,
All right, okay,
money
all right.
warps morals. That's what I'm saying.
That's
this
true.
woman
Okay,
was
that's true. So let me ask-
And it warps belief
Yes, all
systems.
right.
So here's
This woman really.
here's a great question.
You
So
didn't get my Survivor.
It was good. It was really good. I listened
I was
to you
totally
forever,
in
but
it.
I
I was like,
I was trying to
cut,
figure out how to.